Is your company known as a mom and pop? Is that actually a good thing? Let's talk about branding. So sorry I'm late this morning, Jim. I had a little problem with parking.
Well, once you become a really special member of the podcast network, the TalkNorth.com podcast network, we might actually find you a parking spot. Right now, you're trying to prove yourself, which I appreciate.
I'm doing my best, and then I'm trying to cross the street, and there's this big bus, right? And I feel like I'm dancing with this bus. I'm juking to the right, juking to the left, and the bus seems like it's juking with me. And I'm looking at this bus thinking, that's a big bus. And I can see the bus driver looking at me saying, that's a big dude. And next thing I know, I'm here and we're doing a podcast. But
well, the other thing is Roy has to park in, Roy Smalley, our baseball guru on TalkNorth.com, has to park in the garage because we can't have wind touching Roy's hair.
Right.
Your hair will probably protect you against a bus. So I think you're fine.
It does. You know what? That's good advice. I'll just put my head down next time.
Exactly. I don't have that. I have neither the task of keeping my hair in line or the luxury of having it work as a helmet.
It's immediately turned into a hair show, folks.
Yeah. Okay. We'll move on. I promise we'll move on.
Okay, Jim. Were you going to say something? I just interrupted you. I could tell by the posture.
No, believe me, it couldn't have been important.
Are you sure?
Yes.
So here's my question. What's the difference between a slogan and a motto?
Ooh, that's a really good question.
Mr. Wordmeister over there.
A slogan and a
Commander
motto.
of the English language.
You know what, though? I'm kind of temporarily stumped, so I'll let you tell me.
Nothing.
Okay.
It's just that slogan is
It's
used.
a trick question.
Yes.
I really was trying to figure out the difference. I couldn't think of one.
Well, I guess everything has a slight difference. Otherwise, there wouldn't be a different word for it. But for the most part, slogan is what we use when you talk about advertising. And a motto is probably something you would use across different.
Got it.
Venues, or I don't know I just screwed the word up there anyway. Okay, so what's the difference between a slogan and a mantra?
Well, a mantra is something you repeat often to yourself.
So in the Buddhist tradition, this is where we focus. I shouldn't say we. I'm not a Buddhist. And nothing against Buddhists. I just didn't want the Buddhist people who are listening to think that I was implying that I was part of this. But Buddhists like to use it to focus. So it's you're right, it's repeated over and over. Mm-hmm. But in business, you can still have a mantra, which is in meetings. We talked a little bit about values and things like that. A mantra is like one of those things you communicate internally. And that's really the message. That's really the attitude in a business. And a slogan, again, is something that we use for advertising. Quick, easy. This is what we're about. And I bring this up because the phrase mom and pop, I'm going to use that as an example of oftentimes people see that as a good thing. I'm not saying it's not a good thing, but you have to ask yourself, is that what my business wants to be known as? Do I want to say I'm a mom and pop? I mean, frankly, I think that the mom and pop is more of a term of endearment that other people use about a business. But oftentimes businesses will say, oh, we're a mom and pop shop. And the idea is great because what's good about a mom and pop, right, is let's talk about connotations, right? So the connotations of a mom and pop is reliable, good service, personable, right, down to earth, quality, all those things. But the negative connotations of mom and pop oftentimes is slower, less selection, right? Probably more expensive. So that's why we're asking this question this morning, is that what you want to be known at? If I'm going to take out speed, selection, and pricing, I just wiped out about 90% of all the people that are out there shopping for things? Now, if I can live on the 10% that are left, or whatever that number is, then it's fine. So it's just a good example. It's a little bit like, like I said before, it's one of those terms that if somebody's using about you, it's almost always a term of endearment. It's a little bit like the word humble. I always get a kick out of people that say, well, I'm just trying to be humble. Well, you just screwed it up. You just screwed that one up. It's one of those words that someone else uses basically to describe you. You hope, anyway. Hope you're doing a good job. So I thought today we would talk about branding and how important it is, whether you have a service business, whether you have a retail business, whether you have a commercial business. Branding is extremely important. And the things we're going to talk about are logos, slogos and mantras, slogans, slogos.
Slogos.
We got slogos and we got...
We're very creative on this
mantros. Yep, we got... and I got a word called vibe and public perception. So very important to know what the public perception is and to be honest about it, right? Don't just pick the one thing somebody says that you like. You've got to really dig in and find out what the public perception is of your business and how you market things. How you market, the ways in which you use to market your business will say a lot about who you are, and it will have a major impact on how people view you and the public perception of stuff. So we're going to talk about my favorite part of branding altogether, period. I think we've had this conversation before, but we're going to talk about logos. We're probably going to talk about logos more than anything else on the show because I cannot stress to everybody who's listening, if you're going to have a business and it's going to be in the public eye, your logo is critically important. And this is a mistake that I see people make all the time. And there's many reasons why a logo is important, but the first thing you have to think about is your logo is everywhere because you're going to put it on your business cards, you're going to put it on your website, you're going to put it on your marketing materials, you're going to put it everywhere. So if it's bad, you're just putting badness out there everywhere. You don't have to have, this is the other thing I want to say real quick, you don't have to have a perfect logo. You just can't have a bad one. And bad in terms of how does it fit with other things? Bad in terms of can you read it? Bad in terms of what does it say, about your company? Because it is the most subliminal message that you can send about you and your business is your logo. So don't ever have your best friend design your logo. Don't ever design your logo yourself. I'm so sorry if I'm saying this and I'm offending thousands of people because I know this happens. If business people have a creative side of them, they might design their logo before they do anything else. And if you haven't started already, if you don't have thousands of dollars invested in your logo and you've sketched one out right now, just please throw it away.
Throw the boss out, throw the logo out.
You need to. It's really important. It's going to seem great to you. You're going to think this is a great logo, but it's because you want to tap into your creative side. Same thing with your best friend. Unless your best friend happens to be an expert graphic designer who specializes in logos, which is going to be a pretty small market, pretty small possibility, then do not have your best friend, your sister, your brother, your uncle's recommendation, the kid who's just can draw everything good, right? Don't have those people do your logo. Spend money on your logo. And there's another point that I want to make to everybody. The two things people spend too much money on in business are logo design and website development. It's so easy to spend way more than you need to in either case. So in one way, I'm saying don't go cheap on the logo, but I'm also saying don't pay somebody $10,000 to design your logo. I just don't think you don't need to do that. So what do you give me some feedback here, Jim. What are you thinking about all this?
Well, the first thing that popped in my head, and by the way, thanks to everybody who listens to this show or any of the shows on the talknorth.com podcast network. Please go to the website, check out the shows. New show with Cheryl Reeve, The Old War Horses with Russo, Smalley, Krasinski, John Millay, Tim Yoder, Viking Update, all that. We appreciate your listens. Also, new development in the podcast world. It's becoming more and more critical that for our growth and dealing with advertisers, that if you listen to the shows, please download them if you can. We appreciate all listeners, iTunes, subscriptions, whatever way you want to listen. But if you can download, that will help us out, and I appreciate it. My thought, Joe, was you said how important a logo is. And I just have this image of ESPN rising from this dinky little weird cable company that showed Australian rules football to the monolith that it is today. And they've always had just that simple red ESPN logo. Nothing fancy about it, nothing special about it. And I don't know if that helped their development, if it was coincidental to their development. I was interested in your thoughts on that simple a logo.
Yeah, so that's the way they should be. A logo needs to be very readable. As a matter of fact, on the way down here, I created a new rule that everybody should follow. This is just came out of the blue. Your logo, if you print up your logo just off your printer or whatever on a size of a business card, and from 6 feet away, you should be able to read the logo. If you can't read the logo 6 feet away on a business card size, start over.
Interesting.
Yep. Because that's the biggest thing. Scripty stuff, don't do scripty stuff unless it's really, really legible.
My other thought, to interrupt, sorry.
Please do.
I once read a designer's review of the Minnesota Twins logo, which is not just the Twins or whatever. Like the TC, I think is great. The TC, you know what it stands for. It's unique. It's not just another Minnesota. It's not just an M. I used to have this conversation with Tom Kelly. We always thought those are the best Twins hats, the TC hat. The actual Minnesota Twins logo, the circular thing with all the writing on it.
Where they're shaking hands, the guys are shaking hands. You're going back that far?
That in the middle, but with all the circular writing around it. A graphic designer once reviewed it and said it's horrible. You can't read any of the words. It's way too busy.
Yeah, I would agree. Now, sometimes a business can be so successful that it can actually project beyond its logo and make its logo livable. Mm-hmm. But the chances of that happening for anybody's business are slim to none. Like there's so much that has to happen. And why wouldn't you just take the better approach of saying, I can design a good logo? Again, it does not have to be a knock it out of the park. See what I did there with the sports thing?
That was a slogo. That's
right.
What that was.
Right.
Was a slogo.
Right. I'm trying to put a couple of these words together. I'm just going to screw it up. So, you just made me lose my train of thought.
I'm sorry.
What the hell? I mean,
that's what I'm here for, though. I'm here to agitate.
I am, and I'm here to educate. So you're going to be the educator. You're the agitator. I'm the educator. Is this how we?
That's how we do.
Did we just brand ourselves a bit?
The agitator and the educator. That's pretty good, actually.
I mean, that could be a show in itself. If this one doesn't work out, we'll just do exactly the same thing.
I just think we should use this show, and you continue educating. I'll continue agitating. That'll be fine.
So logos. Oh, okay. So again, shape of logo. Don't make a logo that's taller than it is wide.
That makes sense to me.
It needs to fit. It square is good. Little longer than it is tall typically is better. Now there could be graphic designers out there telling me that that's bad, but I've designed a lot of logos or had a lot of logos designed. Hey, I've designed some of my own logos. They do not live at all anymore anywhere, right? I made those mistakes. So oftentimes when I tell people don't do this, is because I've had to do it. And when you have a logo and you redo your logo, when you finally realize it's really bad and you have to redo it, you got a lot of printing to do. You got a lot of updating. You got to, rebrand yourself. It's not good. So it's best to spend some time and effort and money and get somebody who knows about logos. Pick the right colors, make it, it needs to connect with the kind of buyer that you have. And now that can be a little tricky when you're new, because there's a little bit of this, dog wagging the tail versus the tail and the tail wagging the dog with logos. And this goes back to just don't do a bad one. So you might do a mediocre one and you might think this is going to appeal to my demographic or the people that I want to attract. You might find a year later that it actually did the opposite and appealed to a different market. But that's usually not a bad thing, right? As long as that market is producing for you and all that. But I do know this. Logos absolutely bring in certain demographics of people. I can tell you that. And the other thing that happens is when you're in a very brand heavy business, like the Riff City Guitar thing, where we're partnering up with, massive names like Fender, Marshall and Roland, Boss Roland, that kind of thing. It is you build, I call it the hyphen. You build the hyphen between your brand and your logo and their logo, your brand and their brand. And we see it all the time. We'll have, that's actually a really good example. So Boss Roland, we do okay with it, but it's a major, major brand.
Yeah.
And but we should do a lot better with it. I know that we have not built that hyphen between Riff City Guitar.
I think Boss should sponsor the Throw the Boss Out podcast myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will call up everybody I know there and see what they
Or just
see
give
what
me
they
one
say
of their
about it.
practice amps because I love their practice amps.
Now, another pretty famous, to guitar players anyway, brand called TC Electronic. Again, very, very prolific. They sell a lot of pedals. We sell those like crazy. Now, can I tell you why? No. Do I think that it has something to do with our branding and our logo and just being appealing to their people? Yes. So I'm saying all this to make the point that it is really, really important that you get a good, decent logo. Let me see what else about logos.
And by the way, if you'd like to sponsor this show, to be serious about it, you can email me at jsouhan47, the number 47 at gmail.com.
Yes, thanks, Jim. See, you're not an agitator. You're a supporter.
I'm versatile.
You're a show supporter.
I'm versatile.
I mean, you just flip back and forth, I guess, between the two.
I have a toggle switch.
Slogans and mantras and vibe and public perception. What are you thinking about that?
Say it one more time.
So slogans, mantras. So business mantra. Let's not get too hung up in the Buddhist. So just something that we say within our company to get the focus where it needs to be, and vibe within the store, which create the outside public perception. Give me some examples of places that you go, whether it be places you like to eat, places you like to buy, places that you like to be, and just pick one and say, here's their, if you remember their slogan, say it, but just talk about their vibe.
Okay. I will talk about one of your competitors.
Okay.
And
I hope you're going to say awful things.
well, I'm not going to be hypercritical or try to tear them down. I'm just going to offer an observation.
Why not?
Okay, maybe I'll get to it. So one of your competitors, very large competitor of your guitar shop, I
actually think you have a love affair with them. You bring them up every time.
Well,
I mean, it's one of these things where like you can't not talk about them when we talk about Riff City Guitar, and I don't know. Actually, I'm going to make a point after this whole thing, but go ahead.
It's because here's the thing. When I go into Riff City, it's a good vibe. The very fact that you have comfortable chairs and couches there.
Don't forget the cookies.
Big deal. I can't eat gluten. It's poison to me, so I can't have the cookies. But cookies is a great idea, though. I would have cookies too. Oh God, yes.
Coffee's always on.
Yep. And the fact that you can walk in there, and if I want to, walk around and play guitar for an hour, my wife has a comfortable place to sit. If I want to sit down in a comfortable chair as opposed to just a stool to play, that's such a big deal, right? So there's one of your competitors, and I've gone there frequently over the last couple of years because I buy a lot of...
Truth comes out. No. Goes there frequently.
Before I learned of Riff City Guitars, before I ever visited your store, I buy a lot of the equipment you see here. I used to buy it from this place because it's easy. It's right there. They have a bunch of locations, right?
They're not a mom and pop.
They're not a mom and pop. And it's interesting. Over the last 6 months or so, it's gone from being a place... And again, I have to be fair here because there's one of their locations that still has a kind of a good vibe to it. You still walk in, people are friendly but not pushy. Some of the better guitars are within reach and not locked up. You can kind of plug in yourself, play, and that's what I'm looking for when I go to a place. Most of their locations now, you walk in and they have anything you'd want to play locked on a high shelf where you could not possibly access it yourself. There aren't as many cords out. You now have to kind of have the salesperson conversation to even just touch a guitar that you would want to play.
That might be just because you don't buy anything, and so they see you coming. They're like, just get this guy out of here as soon as possible.
A, I have bought stuff there, and B,
just kidding.
And B, they don't. If I
kind of got under your skin there.
If I hadn't bought stuff there, they wouldn't know that.
I think I've just turned it into the agitator. Sorry.
And C, they wouldn't have any idea if I would have bought it if I could have touched it myself. So vibe to me in those kinds of retail stores, I react incredibly strongly to that kind of vibe. Are you trying to put me in front of a high pressure salesperson? Can I do things myself? Can I browse a little bit? That's a big deal to me.
So contrast that, or give me the same example, not in the guitar store industry.
My preference in restaurants is pretty much exactly the same as my preference in retail stores. I don't want to feel like sometimes my wife likes expensive jewelry, so every once in a while, if we happen to be by a store,
well, a woman who likes expensive jewelry.
I know, it's shocking. We're innovators in our family. And I'll walk into like something expensive and I just feel like I should be cleaning the floors. I don't feel like I belong in there, and I don't want to feel that way. If I go to a guitar shop or a restaurant, I want relaxed, casual. I don't want to feel rushed. I don't want to feel pushed. I like people who can provide information, but not rush me toward a sale or try to upsell me.
Yet there are many places that are full of people, and you just said you don't like to go there.
Right.
This is my point.
It's the Yogi Berraism. The place is so crowded, nobody goes there anymore.
Right, exactly. I just said that last night. That's funny. I don't think I realized.
Roy Smalley, our baseball guru and the expert, he knew Yogi. He used to talk to Yogi, and he brings up Yogi Berraisms all the time.
I would. They're fantastic.
Yes.
So the point is, as a business, when you create your vibe, with whatever it is, if you got a slogan, if you just the way the people you hire, right? Everything, the way the place is laid out, it's all going to go to attracting a certain kind of a person.
True.
Right.
Yes.
So you have to kind of control your vibe, so to speak, your public perception. I want to talk about the public perception a little bit. You brought up something before that was, you bring up the big, massive chain store in the guitar store industry. And then there's us. I had an interesting conversation with one of our brand reps who sells a little bit more boutique product. Mm-hmm. And when we started selling that product, we thought, wow, we're going to really do well with this because he has a lot of other stores that don't get or online stores that don't get the kind of traffic that we do. So he was thinking, oh, we're going to do really great with this. Turned out that we didn't do great with it. Did okay with it. But we didn't do very well. And then we had simultaneously done a poll. It was more of a open-ended question poll on Facebook, asking people if they like to shop online versus in a store. And the responses indirectly stated they were just talking about different brands and about different aspects of our store. My friend called me and said, I think you are the alternative to this big chain store. And our boutique products sell in more of the kind of niche-y, smaller places. Mm-hmm. And I think he was correct. And I thought, well, that is a good thing for us to go after. Now, if you'd have said that to me 6 months before that, I would have said, I don't know that I like that comparison, But today, I'm thinking, why not have the vibe of this company that sold millions and millions of dollars, whether or not they made millions and millions of dollars off of those millions of dollars or not, is beside the point. The fact is that they attracted that much business by providing things in a certain manner. And here I have somebody saying, you're like that, but better, because you have the service and you have this other stuff that the public perception for the big stores, and it's not just them, but big stores, is that you don't get that. And I thought, I'm going to live with that. And that brings up the point I made it earlier, and I'm going to really accentuate it now, is don't be dishonest with yourself about what your public perception is or what the public perception of your company is. You want to know that good, bad, or indifferent. Don't pretend, because to pretend that it's one thing when it's not is to be the demise of your company for sure. So the other thing is we talked a little bit about how you market your business. Not only what does your marketing look like, but how do you go about it? Auto places. Almost every time a new brand would blow into our town, I would get a phone call. It would get like a telemarketing call from that auto place. Worst thing you could ever do.
Yep.
Like I hate, and this is 15 years ago before, email and all that had really come into play, but I had a bad perception of that brand forever. To this day, I would never buy any of those brands that did that, because to me, I associated telemarketing with desperate, pushy,
annoying.
Yeah, exactly. But the fact that each one of them did it tells me that in the end, it sold cars for them, right? Maybe it was a short-term play or whatever. We're not here to second guess how people do things. I'm trying to make the point. How you decide to get out to people makes a big difference. The first week that we were in business with Rift City Guitar, we had this tiny little store. It was literally 900 square feet. So our first store was 900 square feet. It's very, very tiny for a retail store. It had guitars, basses, drums.
Wow.
We packed it all in there. And we did, I did spend a lot of time and effort on our logo. I spent a lot of time and effort on our mailings. On our marketing. We did a mailer. We did a direct mail piece, which people had kind of stopped doing. We did a direct mail piece and some other advertising. And I had somebody come in the first week and say, "Is this a chain?" And again, there was this, should I like that or not? And I decided, yeah, I should like that, because that, to me, that says that we did a good enough job of branding that somebody. And so I said to them, we're just a single store, but just what makes you think that? And they said, well, no local stores actually send a piece of mail anymore. That only comes from the big, that only comes from the big stores. Now, they didn't know I owned a mailing company and I could do that a lot cheaper than a regular, company could. But it just goes to my point that all these things make a big difference. If you're very loud on, Google, if you use Google AdWords and you're very loud there, that can have a negative effect if you're not doing that right. If you use remarketing, which I'm sorry, folks, we do, where if you go to our site and look at something, you might see that thing show up in your thing in your browser again somewhere. So that it works, but it can annoy people. Actually, I've had a few people say that before, but everybody does it. So we just feel like we're okay, I guess. Just try, like when you get marketing, there must be situations where you think this gives you an impression, a good impression or a negative one.
Well, because I'm a guitar freak, I always have ads for guitars showing up on my screen, whether I ask for them or not. And frankly, it doesn't really bother me.
How do the catalogs work for you? Do you get the catalogs?
I don't.
Because there's a few.
Well, I get catalogs that I don't think I ever asked for, but yes, I do get catalogs
For guitars?
Yes.
Yeah. So do you, this is market research right here. I mean, this is going to happen right here on the air. We're going to do market research. Does it get your attention? Does it make you, do you go through it? Or do you throw it away?
I used to leaf through them. The more I know exactly what I want, the less useful they are to me. And everything is so easily accessible online, including good used guitars, that no, I don't read them anymore.
Okay. So does it give you an impression of the company, though? So that you don't use the catalog, but do you think, oh, it must be a pretty big place? Or do you think they're old and dated, nobody does catalogs? Or what do you think?
I actually kind of like the catalogs because, let's face it, if you put out a good catalog, it makes your store look pretty spiffy, and it looks like,
you're big.
Anybody who puts out a catalog is going to make themselves look good in the catalog. So I actually think it's fairly effective.
Just a second, I'm ordering a catalog. Calling the printer right now. I'm texting while we're doing the show. Yeah, so we just got to look big. So, yeah, I mean those are the most important things that I can talk about branding. The logo, again, don't have your brother design your logo or anybody that you know for that matter. Have somebody who's a professional. Actually own a slogan. Get a slogan that's printed in a lot of places where people see it, and get a slogan that gives the dog a good name, so to speak. Right?
What would be a good slogan for this network?
A good slogan for this network.
Better than radio?
You're going to put me on the spot.
I mean, I've kicked around some ideas like better than radio, or
I like that.
The best radio in the Twin Cities is not on the radio. That's a little long. But
Too long.
Kind of that idea.
Yeah, too long.
Better than radio might be the short version of that. I just kind of thought of that. I don't know if I'll have to kick that around some more too. Yeah, I would love a short slogan, motto, or even a slogan for this network.
Creating words on the fly.
That basically tells people, hey, you don't have to go sit in your car and listen to 3 hours of talk radio to get the exact content you want.
I don't do creative stuff good on the spot, but I tell you what, I'll try to think about it this week.
Good.
And then maybe next week.
And you know what? This is interactive stuff. If somebody wants to email us, you can email me jsouhan47@gmail.com, whether you want to sponsor the show or offer a good slogan, we'll take it.
Yeah, I think we should do that. So
Yeah. Fire up.
yeah. So I've been Joe Leach. I'm doing the Andertons
I
thing
think
again.
I know. I was just going to say
It's-
that. You
it's
sounded
so-
like Andertons.
I have so much affection for those guys. I
They're
mean, they've
great.
taught me everything that I know about any kind of video stuff, and so I just
They're great. I love their videos. They're
no,
fantastic.
It's good. So let me just say this: I'm Joe Leach.
You have been Joe Leach. I have been Jim Souhan. Thanks for listening to TalkNorth.com. Check out all of our shows. Send me an email. Send us suggestions. We'll probably take you up on them.